what you think about when you're born into a fire. Let them burn it out. Sell them to the richest buyer. They wanna let the world decay. They tell us lies and fade away, fade away. We feel betrayed. We were raised to lose the race. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway. Listen up now.
So
We're never dropping out. Beat the house, beat the big house.
I was looking to this guy that Trump's doing the speech about at West Point,
Let the truth.
where he's like,
This is bigger than a
he's basically talking about this great real estate man.
burn away.
I was looking at this guy. He's a real piece of shit. Of course, I think everybody at Trump admires is a piece of shit. I'm not positive, but it would seem that way.
Wake at the back of the pack.
It's like dictators and other pieces of shit. But I was typing up some documents for my VA claim, so I'm kind of woefully unprepared for the stream tonight. But I do have some things, and then if you guys got topics you want to discuss or something, that's cool. We can always do cover a debate or some shit. Killed a copperhead today. Did you guys see that on Discord? A little bitty one. Probably, I guess it may have been born early this year. I don't know. It's 2 feet, copperhead. Probably wasn't even 2 feet. It's probably more like 18, 19 inches. Lisa found a snake skin yesterday in her flower bed, and then today she saw the copperhead. So she asked us to come up and kill it. Me and Mariah went up there. We had been working. We had just all finished working together on the property, picking up some stuff and clearing out the bridge because it's supposed to rain for like the next 4 or 5 days. And then we had just separated, and she went out and found a copperhead damn near on her back porch. All right, here we go.
Hey daddies, it's me, the Linda Binda from TikTok. I wanted to make this video because I wanted to
I'll
thank
show you a picture if
for
you haven't seen it
watching
yet.
Cold Beer Confessionals with Will Bird. I think that's just incredible. I've watched a few episodes and I'm just like very intrigued. But you know what I'm most intrigued in is Big Daddy's meat stick. I heard that it's very thick, like a good old German sausage. You know, Linda and her coochie loves that. Oh, never mind. Let's not go there. Anyways, I hope you have a good show and enjoy it as you can. There's a lot of weird things that go on, especially when it comes from the realm of Linda Bindaland. So, enjoy the show. Thanks for watching. Peace out.
Welcome everybody. I'm Will Bird, and this is Cold Beer Confessional. I'm not super prepared. Like I said, I've been trying to type up a document for like the last couple hours to send to the VA as part of my claim, like a statement on my, I don't know, a statement on my illness and how it affects everything. Anyways, so I'm kind of unprepared, but I did work today. Worked around the campground today. Got ready. It's supposed to rain all week. Like there's a greater than 50% chance until next Monday. So should be a lot of rain. Yeah. But today, after we were picking up we found this. Look at that. Let me get it over here. That is a copperhead. And the way I usually tell them is it looks like they got Hershey Kisses. Like you see the side of it, how it's shaped like a Hershey Kiss. And of course you can see the copper head, but sometimes you can't see the head. Like if they're under something or wrapped around something, you just see the end of them. But so not far from here, maybe just off this picture, is like a corner where Lisa she's mulching her flower bed. And basically just outside this picture is where the mulch ends right now. This is her flower bed. And she was going to mulch over all this. But in this top right, this corner over here, because I'm flips, this corner over here is like an area where she keeps like her rakes and shit. Like it's like a corner of her porch banister on the outside. And she has like 2 or 3 rakes leaned up there or whatever. Well, yesterday she came out and there was a snake skin there. And it kind of freaked her out because she'd been working in the garden all day today. So then we were walking around. We cleaned out underneath the bridge because all the rain's about to come. We don't want another flood. It's not the river. It's like a creek that comes out through there. It only flows when it's raining. So it was all backed up and piled up with sticks and logs and shit from the flood, the Helene flood. So we got down there for maybe a couple hours and cleaned it up. And then we walked around the property and were just picking up sticks and trash and whatever. And we all separated. And she went back to to go inside the house, feed the dog. And she was going to mulch some more in her flower bed. And looked down and saw this. They're scary looking motherfuckers. Like you can obviously see it's copperhead. I guess I can zoom in on it for you. You might be watching on the phone. But they are well named. I guess that's its copperhead. And then it does look like it has Hershey Kisses. Like see this dark brown outline with like a caramel center or something, but it's shaped like Hershey Kisses. That's how I remember what they are if you can't see their head. But if you can see their head, obviously you can tell. Like their head is like an orange. It almost shimmers in the sun, while the rest of their body is like this brown on brown color, or brown on gray even. If they're real young, this one wasn't real little. If they're real little, their tip of their tail will be yellow. I don't know why, but it'll be like a bright yellow. I don't know if they use it like a lure or something to attract in. I don't know. And then before it was said and done, it ended up being this snake. So we disassembled it. So there you go. It was fully disassembled by the time that I threw it in the river. So I don't mind black snakes, rat snakes, corn snakes, all those snakes. I guess they're good for like mice and shit, right? But damn, copperhead's pretty rough. Especially the younger the copperhead, they say the more dangerous it is. It doesn't have as much venom as an adult. Like an adult obviously has more venom, but an adult can regulate its venom. So a lot of times you get bit by an adult copperhead and they don't even, it's like a defensive bite. They don't even inject venom because they can control it, I guess. But when they're young, they don't even know. So a young copperhead, this may be an urban legend, but this is what I've always heard. A young copperhead, when they bite, they inject all their venom because they don't know if you're food or a predator or whatever. But the older ones, actually, the owner of the campground now, Lisa, her brother used to run it, Rick. His wife had been like bit like 3 times. They always went to by copperheads. They always went to the hospital, and she's never needed anti-venom. She was never like injected with the venom. She was just bit. But the younger they are, the more likely they're not able to control whether they inject venom. They'll just inject it all. But you got time to get to the hospital and shit. It's not like you're going to die in the middle of nowhere. It's not as dangerous as some of these snakes they got like on TV and shit, like the most deadliest snakes or whatever. It's bad. The worst part about it, have you guys ever seen that picture? I know in that shovel, it looks really easy to see the copperhead. But have you guys ever seen this picture? Now this was pretty crazy. There are 4 copperheads in this picture, and I think one's real easy to see. And the rest of them, you're like, damn. There are 4 copperheads in this picture. Like their camouflage is pretty good, especially in leaves, on trees. They got pretty good camouflage. It doesn't look like when you see one out in the open, you're like, what the fuck? Of course you'd see that. Or like on a rock that it doesn't match. But I'll zoom in and show them to you in just a second. But when you see them in their camouflage, they're pretty good. So I think this one's the obvious one to see, right? Because it's not going with the pattern of the wood, right? It's kind of laid across it. So that one's pretty obvious, right? This one's pretty hard. See, it's going up the bark of the tree. There's its head. See the copper head? There's its head going up the bark of the tree. So that's 2, right? Then we've got this one down here at the base, 3, going across. I'm tracing its body with the cursor, right? Copper head. So that's 3. And then I might have been blocking the 4th one for you guys. It's actually over here. Boom. Yeah, I am blocking it. See it coming out of the leaves right here? Right in the corner? That's the last one. But they're hard to see in their environment, right? Pretty fucking hard to see. Especially this one. This one's, if I wouldn't have zoomed in on this one, or if I wouldn't have already known, it would probably take me a while to find this one. Like going straight up to see how their tips of their tails are yellow? These are all really, really young. That's what I was saying about babies. For some reason, the very tip of their tail is yellow, like fluorescent yellow. It's insane the color it is. I killed one last year, and I couldn't believe how fucking bright the tip of its tail was. Insanely bright. Even this one's got a little yellow tail, but it's only for like the first few months. It's because this one damn near as big as the one I killed, but only the first few months are their tails that bright yellow, and it goes away. They're tons of snakes. I don't know how the fuck. This is something I would like to talk to maybe an evolutionary biologist. You guys know what a rattlesnake is, right? Obviously, it rattles. I understand that completely. It has developed this rattle, and it's got like this rattle it builds, and the inside of the skin comes off and makes it a rattle, and it rattles it. Why do other snakes, when they're in a defensive position, stick their tail up and rattle? Does that mean that they saw a rattlesnake do it, and they're like, I can do that? Because that seems wild to me. Like they were just cruising by one day and saw a rattlesnake do it, and they're like, I can do that. So they just fucking start, because all kinds of snakes do the same thing. It's really, they don't have rattles, right? Obviously. This one did the same thing to me. It was just like shaking his tail. And Mariah's like, why is it shaking his tail? It doesn't have a rattle. And I was like, well, a lot of snakes do that. And a lot of snakes do, basically every snake that I've ever interacted with tries it at some point. But it's got to be something genetically, right? Are you telling me that every snake I've ever interacted with has seen a wild rattlesnake? I know I've seen a rattlesnake because they're on fucking TV and I killed one time, right? But these snakes have all seen rattlesnakes, and they all thought, I could try that next time. That seems to work for George the rattlesnake. I bet you I could do it. Or did they used to have rattles at some point? Did all snakes come from a common ancestor that had rattles? That's an interesting question. I don't know. And I don't know why snakes do it, but I just thought I would ask randomly. I would like to ask somebody that one day. I'm sure ChatGPT could help me. Ryan Upchurch is using ChatGPT. GB Bravo T. That's the name of his video. To discuss the fact that ancient Rome was actually in Tennessee, and goddamn, he's such a wild dude. Why do non-rattle snakes still shake their tail like they have a rattle? Anyways. He also thinks that the hospital was trying to steal his baby, so much so that Vanderbilt Hospital, which is a very prestigious hospital, like it's a big deal here in Tennessee, right? If you've got something like really bad, they're like, oh, they had to take them to Vanderbilt. You know, like if you've been like a really fucking bad car wreck, really bad burns, you got really bad cancer, they're like, oh, they went to Vanderbilt. That's like one of the best hospitals in Tennessee. The Ryan Upchurch, the Vanderbilt staff, sent out a memo to the people that were working there when his daughter was born. Is like, hey, look out for this guy. He's trying to make trouble. He's trying to put it on his social media. Just be ready for it because he's a fucking lunatic. All right. Non-rattlesnake species often shake their tails as a defensive mechanism, primarily to mimic the behavior and sound of rattlesnakes. This mimicry serves to deter potential predators by creating the illusion of a more dangerous threat. Many non-venomous snakes, such as king snakes, rat snakes, gopher snakes, and corn snakes, have evolved to rapidly vibrate their tails when threatened. When this vibration occurs against dry leaves or debris, it can produce a sound similar to rattlesnakes' rattle. This behavior is an example of Bayesian mimicry, where a harmless species imitates a harmful one to avoid predation. Predation? Predation? Interestingly, tail-shaking behavior may predate the evolution of the rattlesnake's specialized rattle. Oh, so maybe all snakes did it before rattlesnakes were even a thing. Some researchers suggest that tail vibration is an ancestral trait among snakes, serving as a general defense mechanism in areas where non-venomous snakes coexist with rattlesnakes. This behavior is more pronounced, supporting the idea that mimicry has been reinforced by the presence of venomous counterparts. So it's more... Wow. So yes, they are seeing them. It says some research suggests that if you have non-venomous snakes, or venomous snakes apparently, in an area that rattlesnakes exist, then more of them do it. So yes, they are seeing rattlesnakes do it, and they're thinking, I could do that. That's insane. How often do you think snakes run into each other? I mean, because I rarely see them. And I know a king snake will like fucking eat any other snake. How often do you think they're like, hey, Mark, hey, Bill, and they just fucking pass by each other? Or like, while I was fighting that rattlesnake down at the chicken coop, do you think there was a bunch of other snakes like watching? Like, who's going to win? God damn it, Steve. You weren't supposed to be up there. Now look, the fat kid from the campground is going to chase you down. That's wild. Because rattlesnakes don't just randomly do it. They do it when they're threatened. Maybe they do it when other snakes come around. It seems that all snakes, to some extent, do it. But if the snakes are near rattlesnakes, in an area near rattlesnakes, they do it more often. Which is crazy. Huh. At least that's what ChatGPT says. Some non-venomous snakes enhance their mimicry by adopting other rattlesnake-like behaviors. For example, bull snakes may hiss loudly. A bull snake can flatten its head to look more like a venomous snake. That's insane. Like, you know how they have like venomous snakes have like a wedge-shaped head? That's one way to identify. A bull snake pulls muscles to flatten its head to look venomous, which are insane. But apparently they also hiss loudly. Assume an S-curve posture to resemble rattlesnake striking position. Yeah, I've seen snake balls before. I've seen garter snakes do it. Maybe garter snakes are really mild-tempered. Maybe you just got to piss them off more. But I've seen them do it. And then again, maybe it's because we got rattlesnakes in our area. And that's why, because I had never seen a rattlesnake in town. I had seen them. There's a place in near my town called the Beauty Spot, which is like way up on the mountain, and it's like a way to go from like one little town to the other little town by way of a logging road. And I used to see them up there all the time. When I was young, my dad warned me that they were up there because he said he saw them up there as a boy, and I thought, oh, you're full of shit. And one day we were pulling out a Jeep, and it flipped a log over. Like the way we were pulling it out, it had slid off a bank, and it like rolled a log over. And I bet you 30 of them come out from underneath this fucking, and it scared the shit out of me. Rattlesnakes. They went fucking everywhere. I jumped up on the hood of the vehicle that was pulling the Jeep out. It freaked me out so bad. And since then, I've looked for them and messed around with them. I've seen a bunch of them there. But like actually down in town, that's probably another 2,000 feet elevation, right, where they're at. So I thought, oh, that must be a thing like up on the mountain. But now I've seen them down in town. I've seen them at the campground where we live, you know, right beside the river, one of the lowest points in town because of the river. That was weird to see one at the campground. Anyways, we can stop talking snakes now. This isn't a snake channel. This is a man channel, okay? Let's go with, let's start here. This is Donald Trump's speech. The guy's just making faces and shit. They said the guy has nothing to do with it. Just listen to his speech, and I'm going to tell you who this guy is.
Don't lose your momentum. Momentum's an amazing thing. Keep it going. I tell a story sometimes about a man who was a great, great real estate man.
Great real estate man.
A man who was admired for real estate all over the world, actually, but all over the country. He built Levittown.
Levitt towns. Remember that. Donald Trump's going to call him Bill Levitt. His official name is William Levitt. Maybe he went by Bill, but Levitt towns.
He started as a man who built one house, then he built two, then he built five, then he built 20, then he built 1,000, then he built 2,000 and 3,000 a year, and he got very big, very big. He was great at what he did. You see him all over the country, still Levitt towns. This was a long time ago, but he was the first of the really, really big home builders. And he became very rich, became a very rich man.
Very rich.
And then
he said he was well admired. He was a good guy. He was the greatest, right?
He decided to sell. He was offered a lot of money by a big conglomerate, Gulf and Western, big conglomerate. They didn't do real estate. They didn't know anything about it, but they saw the money he was making. They wanted to take it to a public company. And they gave him a lot of money, tremendous amount of money, more money than he ever thought he'd get. And he sold his company, and he had nothing to do.
So part of this story, Trump doesn't know shit. Part of this story isn't even true. He sold it to a company, not Gulf and Western, unless that was their previous name. He sold it to the company ITT, formerly the ITT Corporation. It's a manufacturing company.
He ended up getting a divorce, found a new wife. Could you say a trophy wife? I guess we can say a trophy wife. It didn't work out too well, but that doesn't work out too well, I must tell you. A lot of trophy wives doesn't work out, but it made him happy for a little while at least. But he found a new wife. He sold his little boat and he got a big yacht. He had one of the biggest yachts anywhere in the world. He moved for a time to Monte Carlo and he led the good life. And time went by and he got bored.
Yeah, this is trophy wife guy.
15 years later, the company that he sold to called him and they said, the housing business is not for us. You have to understand, when Bill Levitt was hot, when he had momentum.
So just so you know, I'm not lying. He just said that. Okay, he just said Bill Levitt. When he was hot, when he had momentum. So he said the guy's full name now.
And they said, the housing business is not for us. You have to understand, when Bill Levitt was hot, when he had momentum, he'd go to the job sites every night. He'd pick up every loose nail. He'd pick up every scrap of wood. If there was a bolt or a screw laying on the ground, he'd pick it up and he'd use it the next day in putting together a house. But now he was spoiled.
So the guy that is a multimillionaire for building, hundreds, thousands of houses at a time is picking up every nail and screw. I don't see that happening. His time's much more valuable than that, right? Like if his company is building gigantic fucking subdivisions, he might pay somebody to go pick up nails and screws or something. But how valuable is his time at that point?
And he was rich. He was really rich. And they called and they said, this isn't for us, this business. We do other things. Would you like to buy it back? We'll sell it back to you cheap. And they did. He bought it. He bought it. He thought he made a great deal. And he was all excited. But it was 15 years later. He lost a lot of momentum. Remember the word momentum. And he lost everything. It just didn't work. He lost everything. And I was sitting at a party on Fifth Avenue one night, a long time ago, And yet the biggest people in New York, the biggest people in the country, all in that party, and they were all saluting each other, how great they were. They were all telling each other.
I don't even know if this guy was that great. He was just at the right place, right time. Right? He was a housing supplier, a builder of housing during a suburb boom. Right? Everybody at the time wanted a house in the suburbs.
I'm greater than you. Gets to be really, gives you a headache sometimes. But they had all these people that telling their own stories about how fantastic. A cocktail party, and I looked over, and I was doing well. I was invited to the party, so I had to be doing well. I was very, very young. But I made a name in real estate, and I looked over, and at the party, sitting in a corner all by himself, nobody was talking to him, was Mr. Levitt.
So you got invited to the party because you were doing so well, but he also got invited to the party because he lost everything?
He had just gone bankrupt, lost everything. He had lost everything, his home, everything. And I went over and talked to him because he was in the real estate business, and I loved real estate. And I said, "Hello, Mr. Levitt, how are you?" He said, "Hello, Donald, it's nice to meet you." He knew me from being in the business. I said, "So how's it going?" He goes, "Not well. It's really not going well, as you've probably read."
Come on. At one of these parties where everybody's bragging about how much better, how much wealthy, he opened up to you, a person he just met, and said, "Not good. I'm struggling. I don't have momentum." Remember, momentum.
A very, very tough period for me, son. I said, "So what happened?" I says, "Anything you can do?" He goes, "No, there's not a thing I can do." He said, "I'll never forget." He said, "I've lost my momentum. I just didn't have it. I used to have it, but I lost my momentum." So it's a story I tell, and you have to know when you have.
This was to West Point graduates, by the way. This whole fucking meandering story about some guy, trophy wife and millionaire and losing everything and momentum.
The momentum, but sometimes you have to also know when you've lost the momentum.
All right, now let me tell you about this guy. So his name's William Jard Levitt. Jaird is his middle name. He's an American real estate developer and housing pioneer. Levitt was born in 1907 to a Jewish family in Brooklyn. His generation was the second since immigrating from Russia and Austria, so they're immigrant family. The paternal grandparents who immigrated to the United States had been a rabbi grandfather from Russia and a grandmother from Austria, Germany. His father was Abraham Levitt, a Brooklyn-born real estate attorney and part-time investor. His mother was Pauline Biederman. A young brother, Alfred, was born when William was 5 years old. Bill is what he goes by, I guess. William received public school education at Public School 44 and Boys High School. He then attended New York University. So then the business, Levitt and Sons. So in 1929, William's father, Abraham, founded a real estate development company called Levitt & Sons. Levitt & Sons built mostly upscale housing on and around Long Island, New York in the 1930s. William Levitt served as the company president, overseeing all aspects of the company except for the designs of the homes they built, which fell to William's brothers Alfred. So their dad gave him a company that already existed, and he did everything, and then his brother did the design. After World War II, during World War II, Levitt served in the Navy as a lieutenant in the Seabees. After returning from the war, he saw a need for affordable housing for returning veterans, right? The boom. This is a huge, after World War II, there's such a big housing boom. And the baby boomers, right? America's post-war prosperity and baby boom had created a crisis for affordable housing. Anybody building houses this time would have been a millionaire, right? Even before returning from the war, Levitt experimented with mass housing projects, building a 1,600-home community in Norfolk, Virginia, which was not a success, and housing units remained unsold into the 1950s. His housing developments, they called them Levitt Towns. Levitt progressed to become a pioneer in mass production. He had houses built in less than 6 weeks on inexpensive land with no urban infrastructure. Houses were built on concrete slabs with no further foundation and could be purchased for as little as $1 down payment. So they were mass produced, they were all the same, and they were kind of cheaply produced, right? Concrete slabs with no footers. Could you imagine that? The house is just going to sink eventually. Levitt and Sons' first successful housing development was located on almost 20 square miles of land near Hempstead, Long Island, and was named Levittown. The assembly line construction method enabled Levitt to build more efficiently than other developers at the time, with teams of specialized workers following each other from house to house to complete incremental steps in the construction. Levitt reduced the cost of constructing houses by freezing out union labor. So here's the first big red flag, right? Houses were cheap, and he froze out union labor. Literally had fucking picket lines in front of his housing that his workers had to fight through. This proposed picket lines, but enabled him to use the latest technology such as spray painting. Levitt also cut out middlemen and purchased many items, including lumber and televisions, directly from manufacturers, as well as constructing his own factory to produce nails. The building of every house was reduced to 27 steps, and subcontractors were responsible for each step. His mass production of thousands of houses at virtually the same time allowed Levitt to sell them fully furnished with modern electric appliances for as little as $8,000 each, which would be about $95,000 today. Which, with GI Bill and federal housing subsidies, reduced the upfront cost of a house to many buyers to around $400. $400. Levitt was the cover story in Time magazine, July 3rd, 1950, with a tagline, "For sale, a new way of life." In 1952, people started buying over 17,000 Levitt-built homes in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. In addition, the company built Willingboro, New Jersey, which still has street names such as Levitt Parkway during the 1950s. So some of the communities he built ended up turning into towns. So basically, this town in New Jersey, what did I just call it? Willingboro, New Jersey, was just one of his housing complex that spilled over into a full town. Levitt & Sons constructed Bel Air at Bowie in Bowie, Maryland. William had taken control of Levitt & Sons in 1954, and the company went public in 1960. During the 60s, when Levitt was leading the company, Levitt & Sons developed properties beyond the American mainland, such as Levittown, Puerto Rico, Linsigny, France, and Seine-et-Marne, and Menacey in France. In the early 1960s, the company built a 5,000-house community in north-central New Jersey called Strathmore at Matawan. Strathmore at Matawan was another one in New Jersey. Legend might know where some of these places are. Personal fortune. By the late 1960s, Levitt had become one of the richest men in America, with a fortune estimated in excess of $100 million, okay? Which would be about $1 billion now. So he's a billionaire. He lived in a lavish 30-room mansion on his La Colline estate in Mill Neck, New York, and spent much of this time on La Belle Simone, his 237-foot yacht named after his third wife. Okay? Now, we get into the shit. So, first of all, he's anti-union, right? Even though he's in an area that's typically union, he froze out the unions. He undersold everybody. He kind of built shitty houses. Now, let's get to the worst part. Levitt, this guy that Trump's bragging about, knowing and how cool he was and how everybody loved him until he lost his momentum. Levitt refused to integrate his developments. His sell contracts also forbade the resale of properties to black people through restrictive covenants. Although in 1957, a Jewish couple resold their house to the first black family to live in a Levitt home. Levitt's all-white policies also led to civil rights protests in Bowie, Maryland in 1963. The National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP, and the American Civil Liberties Union opposed Levitt's racist policies, and the Federal Housing Administration prepared to refuse mortgages on his next Levittown. Nevertheless, so even though FHA said we're not doing loans in your houses, nevertheless, Levitt would not back down and continued planning another whites-only Levittown in Willingsboro Township, New Jersey. He fought legal challenges in New Jersey courts until the Supreme Court refused to hear his case. So after he gets in all this trouble for like refusing to let black people live in his communities, then comes the sale. After he had built over 140,000 houses around the world, the then 60-year-old Levitt sold the company to ITT for $92 million, which would be about $870 million nowadays, in July of 1967, of which $62 million was in the form of ITT stock. ITT made Levitt president of the renamed Levitt Corp. with a non-compete clause where Levitt could not found or be employed by any other United States home building company for 10 years. He entered the agreement thinking he would play an active role in ITT affairs, but executives felt Levitt was too old to take on more responsibility. So they said, hey, we're going to make you president and you can actually run the place and we're just paying for it, but it'll still be yours. But no, he didn't get to do anything. Levitt remained president under ITT until 1972. During that time, he led subsidiaries development of housing projects in Palm Coast, Florida, Richmond, Virginia, and Fairfax, Virginia. After the restriction against Levitt moving to a new home building company in the United States expired, he was unable to repeat the success he had achieved with Levitt & Sons. He established a series of companies and joint ventures through the 1970s and 1980s, which failed. So the company didn't sell his business back to him. After his 10-year non-compete expired, he started a new business, which never went anywhere, right? The ITT stock he often used for collateral on these ventures lost 90% of its value, saddling him with great debt. So he used the stock that he got from them buying his company to start his new companies, and then it went kind of bust. It lost 90% of its value. The Levitt Corp had its license to conduct business in Prince George's County, Maryland, revoked in 1978 after building inspectors found more than 2,500 code violations and only 122 homes in their latest subdivision in Northview. He was accused of misappropriation of funds from his charitable Levitt Foundation and agreed to repay $5 million. He stole $5 million from his own charity, more than $5 million or $11 million in 1992. Levitt died from kidney disease in a hospital in Manhattan, New York, on January 28th, 1994, at the age of 86. What a good dude. Everybody loves this guy, right? Remember that. Keep your momentum. What is this? Shabuzi.
Been an important part of AMA history. The very first year of this show, the award for favorite male country artist went to the great Charlie Pride.
That same year, favorite female artist went to Lynn Anderson, and this award went to the Carter family, who basically invented country music.
This year's AMA nominees in that category are very impressive and include a few of our friends.
So Shabuzi and I are rooting for all of them. Check them out.
Damn. There's a little side eye there, wasn't it? Anyways, that's who Trump's a big fan of, clearly. He's a big fan of people who refuse to even stop segregation in their house. He won't even sell to black people. And then put clauses in to where people couldn't resell to black people. Oh, I know what we never did. What's that guy's name? Officer Udi or something like that? Yeah, there it is. This guy. This is the guy that's like, I'm going to say it. I don't give a fuck. Joe Biden's not there for those people in North Carolina. He made a bunch of content, and it blew up, right? His anti-Joe Biden content, North Carolina, crying, screaming. These people aren't getting, they're out there dying, they're living. But then, when he was asked again and again and again and again and again, why won't you talk about Trump? Trump hasn't even mentioned the tornadoes that have ripped apart half the fucking country. Hasn't even mentioned them at all, officially. Someone asked him, why don't you mention that? Well, then he's like, well, I don't do politics.
Y'all remember when I brought up the people of Western North Carolina? and after Hurricane Helene, how I personally felt that they weren't getting the love they deserved and they weren't getting the help they so adamantly needed. And man, I got ripped, I got reamed, I got railed. People were calling me all kinds of names, making video after video. All good though, cool. That is their right to do so. Didn't change anything. We still jumped in the truck, we still took supplies, we still helped as many people as we could, and that's thanks to y'all. Again, I don't like to do politics. Some of y'all, that's your only identity.
Okay, so he's not a politics guy.
I don't speak on every natural
He's just a Trump supporter.
disaster. Otherwise, that would be all my pages.
Oh, he doesn't speak on every natural. This is a different natural disaster that's being ignored by the current president. Okay.
Earthquakes and tornadoes and hurricanes. But listen, whether you're left or right, we should be doing right by people. And if we're not doing right by people, that's not okay. So if Kentucky or Missouri or any other state that has had a natural disaster is not getting the love and the help they needed, for the love of everything holy, get off your ass and let's help them. Let's help them. Good, bad, or indifferent, let's help them, because that's what we're supposed to.
Right, we will as soon as you say that Trump has failed, right? Not that it was Joe Biden and Kamala Harris has failed. They weren't helping anybody. They weren't taking this seriously. They were leaving people behind, right? Like, so you're going to call them out, right?
Do help. Y'all remember when I brought up the people of Western North Carolina?
Let's see if we can find his Helene video. Sorry.
Part of AMA history, the very first year of this show, the award for favorite male country artist went to the great Charlie Pride.
That same year, favorite
There was a few of them. What a fucking piece of shit, dude. I stand with Mama Tot and Officer Udi.
Legitimate question for all of you people who have come out and been so supportive of FEMA and our loving government, talking about how they've done so much for the hurricane victims. Quick question. When they...
Idiot just resubscribed.
Oh, thank you, Idiot.
I am the chosen one.
You are the chosen one. Thank you very much for the resubscription. I appreciate it. Thank you.
When these people, the American people, have to go online to apply to get their money, right? They got to give out their addresses, their phone numbers, social security numbers.
Oh, it's going to be the migrants. And the migrants just walk over here and they give them $1 million.
Things like that. You want to know how I know? Because they sent me a text message. Our loving government sent me a loving text message where I could apply because my area has been devastated. Has not been. You see, my house is still standing. A lot of people lost their homes. I have power. A lot of people won't have power for a long time. I have food. A lot of people are starving right now. But my question to y'all is, when the illegal immigrants came over, right?
Oh, here we go. When the damn brown people got here, they just hand them out shit. Mama Todd is such a fucking cunt. Never watch Mama Todd again. I don't know why you didn't get the memo.
Actively break the law and come on over here. What did they put in to get their money? Because they don't have social security numbers, right? Like they don't have an address, right? Silly me. They don't have phone numbers, unless they're getting, stuff provided for them. I don't know who would be providing stuff like that for them. But how long did it take for them to get their stuff?
Well, they put in the residence that they're probably planning on going to. They probably do have a cell phone. I don't know why they wouldn't have a cell phone. Cell phones are not just a thing that exists in the United States. And they give them numbers, right? I-10 numbers.
I get confused. I'm not the smartest.
You seem kind of confused.
But if you could just help me out with that, that'd be great. If you could just let me know how all of that worked, because I would like to be able to tell these people.
People in the comments saying, where the fuck y'all at now? Who forgot about fucking Kentucky?
Who keep asking me. Okay? Thank you so much for your time. Hope this finds you well. Legitimate question for all of you people who have come out and been so supportive of FEMA and our loving government, talking about how they've done so much for the hurricane.
Videos about Western North Carolina and the relief after Hurricane Helene and
this just came. So you remember we were talking about, I just posted this on my Facebook today and people are yelling at me. So I posted something and it looks legitimate. It's from Courier News. And I posted it and there's a picture of Trump and there's a statement there. I'll read it to you. I'll show you the post. Fuck. All right, so this is on my personal Facebook. Okay? It's from Courier News, and down here it says North Carolina voted for Trump 3 times in a row. And it says Trump denies North Carolina's request for Hurricane Helene FEMA relief. And it says the Trump administration issued a letter saying the request from North Carolina's governor is not warranted. Now, this is true. All right, this happened back in April, and they appealed it. And on May the 22nd, so like 5-6 days ago, they denied their appeal. Okay? Now, who the fuck reads this? I posted this with a source. You can click on this. It'll take you to their post, and the very first thing is a source, like a news story you can click on. And this image, which is the actual image of them saying it is not warranted, okay, for another 180 days, right? What do you think, people that live around me local, what do you think their very first comment to this was? Like, I haven't read that anywhere, or where's the link at? Can I click on that and find the link? Could you send me the link? Where did this come from? How'd you find this? Where'd you see it at? Do you know it's true? What do you think their very first comment was? The people that live here in Irwin, fucking Tennessee. The very first comment was, "That's a fucking lie." They didn't even Google it. They could have just Googled it. Mama Todd is a stupid, dumb bitch Trump supporter who tries to hide it. But she already let it slip multiple times after she called out the current administration, then does the same thing. I'm not political. I don't know nothing about it. I'm not political. Does this same thing with like, well, we've got people here that are hurt, and I can't believe they're so concerned about immigrants. Like we can't help fucking multiple groups of people at the same time. So I sent the person like 9 fucking links. Here's one, here's one, here's one. I said, how many sources would you like? Here's the actual denial letter. This is after they were denied in April and appealed that decision. Well, you think I just make it up to sit here? That's a fucking lie. You think I just make up shit to post? Even North Carolina's governor, who still supports Trump, is like, oh man, this is probably going to cost us upwards of $200 million. So basically what it is this person tried to argue with me like, oh, they got a FEMA or a HUD grant. HUD is for building houses. The FEMA money that they're looking for right now is for cleanup. There's still a lot of cleanup to do. And what they want is 100% reimbursement. The Trump administration denied their 100% reimbursement and then in negotiation to see how much that reimbursement was. But even if they go down to 90%, even if they go down to 90%, it's estimated it's going to cost North Carolina taxpayers $200 million to pay that 10% that the federal government's refusing to pay right now, which is a lot of fucking money. A lot of fucking money. And even though the North Carolina governor still is like walking this line of supporting Trump and whatever, he's still upset about it, obviously, or he wouldn't be tweeting about it. He's just trying to keep people from calling out Trump directly, saying, oh, we're just having a disagreement, but I really wish they would do that. Like, what the fuck? Oh. What is this? Vermont farmer regrets voting for Trump. We voted for Trump to fix the border. Now we're milking cows alone at 4 a.m. We didn't think they'd come for the people who help us milk cows. Locals just don't want to do this work anymore. A 5th-generation dairy farmer from Sheldon, Vermont. Yeah. I worked on a dairy farm. It fucking sucks, bro. You don't like my profile picture? I think it's a good one. And my dad commented on it. Anyways, People are surprised that they're fucking just getting rid of the immigrants that do all the work. It's weird. They're boycotting Harvard? Yes, they're boycotting Harvard. MAGA is currently boycotting. You won't see any maggots at Harvard now. Okay? You won't see any of those MAGA, Trump supporter MAGA at Harvard. We're done. Done. Not even Barron, because he couldn't get in, allegedly.
Well, this is kind of flying.
You look good in that picture, even if it is 10 years old. It was at a Krispy Kreme. For some reason, my dad commented on it 3 years ago.
Well, this is kind of flying under the radar. Did you know that as of today, there are quite a few Americans in Gaza, not direct government employees per se, but private contractors, and a lot of them, which of course raises the concern, what happens if Americans, in this case operating under an aid organization and for security contractors, are killed in Gaza? Does it ruin...
All right, so listen. Israel has basically just announced that they are... No, I'm not changing it. My dad commented on that one. Has basically just announced that they are going scorched earth, right? They expect to control like 90% of Gaza within the next couple months or some shit. Like they're just... Even one of their former leaders who's like been... He was like... He's not currently in government, but he was in the Israeli... I can't remember his name. He was in the Israeli government a few years ago, who has basically been defending a lot of these actions and saying, you know, the fog of war mistakes. He's like, now we're committing war crimes. Now we're committing fucking war crimes. You can't get away with this. Like, they're going to come for us. Like, they're going to have like a fucking trial for us. That's what's going to end up happening.
Does it run the risk of pulling the United States further into this conflict? Well, that all happened pretty fast. It looks like these aid distribution points have now been overrun. So, you know, that's not great. Positive news, it doesn't sound like as of now there's any reports of any shooting, anybody being killed or seriously wounded. But we've got a couple of videos I'm going to play here showing what appears to be these aid distribution points being completely overrun and looted. In fact, reports out of Gaza right now are that the entire distribution complexes set up by the American company were destroyed. Food packages were looted by the Gazans, and the company personnel withdrew from the scene, citing complete loss of control. They say the American company employees were firing shots into the air, kind of warning shots. The IDF is not taking part in this. It looks like it's been handed off to the American security personnel on the ground. But again, it sounds like they've regained control of the distribution center. But this is the risk of having American personnel on the ground in Gaza, right? You see, like you can blink, and all of a sudden we're turning into some sort of lethal engagement. But nonetheless, the rest of today's video does get into some more details about what to expect should this humanitarian project continue on, and some of the risks associated with American personnel on the ground that have already shown to be true. So today we're going to get into what we know so far about the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation that, again, in my opinion, is kind of being underreported given the volume of Americans, the number of Americans that are likely directly involved on the ground in Gaza. Now, this foundation was stood up just earlier this year, so it's a new organization, American organization based here in the United States with a goal of distributing aid inside of the Gaza Strip. They were formed through a collaboration, to our understanding, of American intelligence officials, business executives, and Israeli authorities. A good way to look at this.
Yeah, I can't really blame them for... Wait till you see some of these pictures of like what I'm talking about when I'm talking like scorched earth. Hold on. I think he did another video. Look at some... I understand it sucks to have an aid site overrun and they're there to help, and like they probably should have stayed orderly and whatever. It kind of makes them look bad. But I can't really blame them either. What? Check this out. Check this video out.
Operation Gideon's Chariots has begun with Israel's goal of returning the hostages and eliminating Hamas once and for all. Meanwhile, a former Israeli prime minister said, "Enough's enough. We're committing war crimes in Gaza." Now, starting with some reporting from the ground from Manny Fabian of the Times of Israel. Manny says, quote, "The IDF says it aims to occupy 75% of the Gaza Strip territory within 2 months as part of its new offensive against the Hamas terror group." As a little reminder, the previous operations in Gaza, we saw a lot of IDF pushing in, conducting raids and targeted operations, and then kind of pulling back. What we're
Chris Christie and his wife got pardoned. I haven't seen that.
Seen as part of Gideon's Chariots is they're going to go in and occupy portions of the Strip for the long term, possibly forever. I mean, there's been no end state as to how
forever. They're not stating an end to this because there isn't an end. Forever, and they're going to cram everybody into this little bitty safe area.
How long this will last? And
how do we make sure that they go to the safe area and they don't return to these other areas? they are going to raise the air, like they are going to destroy every building in the area.
When the major ground offensive is launched, the Palestinian population will be pushed into 3 small zones in Gaza: a new safer zone in the Mawasi area on the southern strip's coast, where Israel previously declared a humanitarian zone; a strip of land in central Gaza's Deir al-Balah and Nusrat, where the IDF.
So this is all of the strip, right? They're going to put them in these little areas. That's it.
Has not operated with ground forces, and the center of Gaza City, to which many Palestinians returning during the ceasefire earlier this year. These numbers are kind of staggering when you start to see how many people are going to be moved around in short order here. They say, according to the IDF's current estimates, some 700,000 Palestinians are now residing in the Mawasi area, 300 to 350,000 are in central Gaza, and around 1 million in Gaza City. This means that Gaza's 2 million population will be pushed into an area amounting to just 25% of the strip when the IDF launches its expanded ground operation. That expanded ground operation is already underway. We're seeing the opening phases of that play out right now, but as it grows, again, we're going to see 75%.
I mean, raze, R-A-Z-E. That's the definition I mean. Completely destroy an entire town. There's nothing left there.
Of Gaza under IDF control. He says the IDF will then capture, clear of Hamas infrastructure, raise most buildings, and hold for the foreseeable future the rest of Gaza, including all of Rafah, Han Yunis, and the towns north of Gaza City. Now, I'm going to show some footage here showing what some of these raised areas look like. I got a couple, I think, from Rafah.
Look, this was a town. You guys see this image, right? Imagine you live in this town. There's one fucking building left. And then there's an aid dispensary down the road. You could see how it might get out of hand, right? How they might overrun the aid. They plan on leaving the rest of the strip unlivable. So they have to go to those safe zones. That is Rafah City. That's it. That's all. There's nothing left. There's one building.
Specifically, when they're talking about raising the area, they're talking about everything coming down, all buildings destroyed, which we've talked about in previous videos. There are circumstances where the IDF, I feel like this has gone underreported, they're going into these buildings and one after the.
You're talking about Todd and Julie Chrisley? Not Chris Christie. Okay.
The other after the other, there are either tunnel networks popping up in the middle of the building where Hamas fighters can pop out and engage Israeli forces, or they're booby trapped, or both in a lot of cases. We just played a video last week.
So the reason they're destroying the buildings, they claim, is because there's been several times where the IDF forces went into the building and it was just booby trapped.
Where the IDF was clearing a structure in Rafah, and when they came in to find out...
You went to Rafah back in that's cool.
Where these Hamas gunmen were firing from, charges detonated, possibly killing, at least wounding some of those IDF soldiers. So that's the threat being pointed to as to why a lot of these areas have to be razed to the ground, and it's not worth personnel going in there to check for IEDs. Fabian says, according to the IDF's plan, it should take just 2 months to capture 75% of Gaza from the moment the operation goes ahead.
So, listen. 2 months. 60 days, they're going to capture 75% of Gaza. There is no way they can be moving that fast and looking out for civilian casualties or not causing excess destruction, not violating fucking rules of law, of war, right? 60 days. They're going to take 75% of the strip.
Currently, the military is in control of about 40% of the strip's territory. That is a rapid movement. Far different than what we expected from the IDF in the opening days of this war a couple years ago, where there was concern if the IDF would be able to punch into the Gaza Strip at all, or if the defensive belt set up by Hamas would be too much for them to overcome without significant casualties. And there was a real change.
Chris Lee Knows Best is the reality show.
In the opening days of the war, that it would revert to just a bombing campaign, and Israel wouldn't risk ground forces pushing all the way to the coast. Now, a few years later, all of a sudden they're saying it's just going to take us a couple months and we'll be in full control of 75% of the Gaza Strip. Now, according to the IDF, currently they have 5 divisions operating inside of Gaza. The Chief of Staff, Lieutenant General Zamir, said, quote, Hamas is under tremendous pressure. It has lost most of its assets and command and control. We will activate all of our tools so that we can return the hostages home, defeat Hamas, and dismantle its rule. Now, my understanding is there are still kind of sporadic ceasefire, hostage release negotiations ongoing. There are some back...
The UN estimates that approximately 92% of all residential buildings in Gaza have been damaged or destroyed since the start of this conflict. That was back in April.
forth today, but it doesn't look like there's been a lot of progress. From what I've seen, it's kind of the same old, where terms are thrown out there. Hamas tends to change them a little bit and say, yeah, we're good at this so long as Israel completely leaves the Gaza Strip. I don't think that's in the cards anymore. I think what we've seen happen progressively over the last few months, especially, is some of those demands that Hamas may have been able to make earlier in the war, or at least they had a better chance of making them, are off the table now. It looks like Israel is going all in to see the full dismantlement of Hamas. To that end, we did get a statement earlier today from the IDF spokesperson in Arabic warning the residents of Han Yunis to evacuate, giving you an idea of where some of these ground operations are going to be taking place. They say the IDF is attacking with unprecedented force to destroy the territory.
So this is the leaflets and the pamphlets they pass out, right? If you're in any of this area, go that direction. I personally did some of this in Iraq. I mean, it's sad though. Imagine this happening to you like your whole life, right? Hey, we're going to come in and destroy your fucking town. If you're in this town, leave. That's hard to do.
Terrorist organizations which continue to launch rockets from your residential area. The Han Yunis district is considered a dangerous combat zone that has been warned several times. You must evacuate immediately west to the Mawasi area. And just yesterday, maybe earlier today, there were rockets fired out of the Gaza Strip. Just a few, like 2 or 3, and my understanding is they were intercepted. But nonetheless, it's crazy when you look at how small this area is. It gives you an idea of how well Hamas has been able to hide munitions and still move around inside of Gaza under persistent Israeli ISR and sling a couple of these rockets from time to time into Israeli territory. Now, looking at Israeli operations, they say the Air Force carried out over 200 strikes in the Gaza Strip over the past 48 hours. They say they targeted terror operatives, weapons depots, anti-tank and sniper positions, tunnel shafts, and other infrastructure. In southern Gaza, they say they struck a building used by Hamas as a weapons depot, an observation post, and other structure used by the terror group.
ISR is intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance.
Troops also directed drone strikes on several operatives spotted in buildings near the forces. We do have a fair amount of drone footage coming out of Hamas in recent days showing individual drone strikes against personnel on the ground. They say in northern Gaza, the IDF carried out a strike with a fighter jet, destroying a building where members...
I get it. Hamas is fucked up. And people want to say, well, they elected Hamas 25 fucking years ago, dude. There are people that weren't even alive for the election that are fucking dying now. Like, Hamas is fucked up. I get it. Right. What about all the fucking innocent people?
Hamas's Nukba force were operating. Say the Israeli military carried out a strike overnight against key terrorists who were embedded within a school-turned-shelter in Gaza City's Daraj neighborhood. According to Palestinian media, they say at least 25 people, including children, were killed in the strike on the Al-Jarjawi school. Excuse me. The IDF says that the school was being used by Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad as a command center, and that the military took many steps to mitigate civilian harm, including using precision munitions, aerial surveillance, and other intelligence. Nothing new here, a lot of back and forth. We get one report from, say, Al Jazeera or Hamas, a completely different report from Israel, and we're left here on the outside wondering which one of those two has more credibility. And I think everybody at this point in the conflict kind of chooses which side they want to believe. So that's where we continue to be. Now, we did get some interesting footage from Hamas before we jump into these war crimes accusations coming from inside of Israel. We did get some interesting footage from Hamas that I'm not going to show, unfortunately. I'll put up a couple screenshots here, but it's from Al Jazeera. And the problem is, whenever I showed some Al Jazeera footage like a few months ago, they copyright struck my account here on YouTube. You get too many of those, they take the channel down. And I thought that it was fair use because I was talking about what we were seeing, providing.
Yeah, absolutely. Copyright strikes kind of a shitty way. That's like the golden rule of content creators, right? As long as I'm not just downloading someone's video and re-uploading it as if I'm them, right?
Additional context, but for Al Jazeera, no go. And they came after the channel. So look, lesson learned. I'm not going to show that footage. I'll link it in the description below if you want to check it out. But Hamas coordinated with Al Jazeera for an Al Jazeera journalist to go below ground.
To go down into these tunnels.
Into some of the remaining tunnel infrastructure. And again, with just a couple of the screenshots here, you can see that this one's still in pretty good condition. And we got the Hamas guys in their uniforms. When they're below ground, it doesn't really matter that they're in uniforms. Nonetheless, this is the first time, I believe, since this war began, that Hamas has invited any journalists at all, or like even their own internal comms people, to show like interviews below ground.
I understand the Palestinian people are just tired of getting fucked over. But I wish there was a way that like the normal Palestinians that just want peace could out the Hamas segment without being killed themselves and do something. This is crazy, man. Too many innocent people are dying.
Of some of their fighters, and I wonder how much of this is.
But the Palestinians don't trust the Israelis either, right? They cut off their food and their shelter, and they bomb their homes and kill their children, and they don't trust them either. Even if they don't like Hamas, from their perspective, Israel's no fucking better. They can't win no matter what.
Aimed at a domestic audience. How much of this is aimed at the people of Gaza to kind of, in this video, they talk about how, hey, we're still fighting. We're just using these as staging areas. We're not hiding. Don't worry. We're not just like protecting ourselves below ground while the civilians are above ground. And I wonder if that was meant more at the Gazan civilians to kind of reassure them that Hamas is still there and they're not hiding. But nonetheless, interesting video, like 9-10 minute long video showing the tunnel networks. Now, turning over to the statement from Ehud Olmert, my apologies in the pronunciation there, but he's a former prime minister of Israel from...
This is Preston Stewart, and this is the quote I was talking about. The former prime minister from Israel is out of government now. He's former prime minister, but listen what he has to say.
2006 and 2009, just before Netanyahu came into power. He wrote an article in Haaretz on May 22nd, so just a couple days ago, titled, quote, "So far, we are committing war crimes." And he doesn't pull any punches. This is a long one. I'm going to link the article paywall free in the description below if you want to check it out. I pulled out some what I thought were key statements here. And again, I want to preface this with, I barely understand American politics. I don't have any insight into Israeli domestic politics, so I don't know.
I think he said he links this.
There, and if Olmert speaks.
Let's see if we can find it. Is this it? Oh, God. Where's the translation? English. Here you go. So this is the article he's fixing to read. And again, this is from a former prime minister. So far, we are committing war crimes. The Israeli government is currently waging a pointless war without a clear goal or plan and with no chance of success. Since its establishment, the state of Israel has never initiated such a war. In this, too, the gang of criminals headed by Benjamin Netanyahu has set a precedent that this is unparalleled in the history of the country. Oh. To say that we are committing war crimes while we have hostages held by Hamas is a moral lie. A moral that has surrendered to the global left and a weak moral that is devoid of any logic. Every sensible person knows that the war will end the day the hostages return. The fact that the hostages did not return, these are comments on it. And the IDF issued official statements about the areas of its attack. It is the fault of the civilians who were killed. They could have pressured Hamas to release the hostages, or simplest way, to go to safe areas and not die. That's the comments coming back from this. I guess you have to be subscribed to this. He sent it here to where you don't have to be subscribed to it, but I don't know how to translate this. It didn't give me an option to translate it into English. Subscribe, log in, navigation. Let's see if I refresh it, if it'll give me a chance to translate it into English. He reads the important parts. I was just going to read the whole thing, but I guess we can't. Oh, well. I'm not going to copy and paste it all, so we'll just listen to him read it.
Speaks for a small portion of the government, a large portion of the government, whatever it might be.
I mean, so like that commenter said, well, why don't the innocent people just pressure Hamas into giving up the hostages? Could you imagine me pressuring Trump into reducing the tariffs? They have the guns. They have the power. What do you mean pressure them? Do you think that's how it works?
Nonetheless, when you have a former leader coming out, very well articulating some of his concerns, I think it's worth presenting. He said, quote, "The Israeli government is currently waging a pointless war without a clear goal or plan and with no chance of success. Since its establishment, the state of Israel has never initiated such a war. What is happening in the Gaza Strip in recent weeks has nothing to do with a legitimate war goal." And there's an interesting statement here. I do want to separate out kind of the political and the military aspect here, because we have seen some issues within the IDF, just like we've seen within any military, of inappropriate conduct by forces on the ground. That's nothing new, and it's nothing unique to Israel. But by and large, we've watched the soldiers of the Israeli military carry themselves very professionally from the start of this war to today. And I just saw some interviews a couple days ago. Andrew Fox was putting some of this together, talking about how in talking with a lot of members of the IDF, they're in a place where they're having to kind of adjust on the fly. Like, they have their operational plans, but they don't really know what the end state is going to be, so they have to adjust their war plans as they go. That's not a good way to fight a war, and that speaks more to the political nature of this than the military. It's asking a lot.
They shouldn't put that on the soldiers. They should have a clear goal. What is success? What is failure? What happens when we succeed? What happens when we fail? And then what are our strategies if we start tending towards failure instead of the success, right? No plan survives contact with the enemy, but there ought to be contingencies to fall back on. To ask them to change their goal in the middle of a mission they're running is way too much to leave up to individual soldiers, right? That should be a command thing. Let's say something huge happens, you're missing, fall back, get cover, ask command what we do next, not making decisions on the ground.
Of the military to do that. Anyways, moving back to Ulmer here, he says, quote, in the past year, serious accusations have been made around the world against the conduct of the IDF and the government in Gaza, including accusations of genocide and war crimes. In media discussions in Israel and the international arena, I have strongly opposed these accusations, although I have not spared criticism of the government.
The West Bank is like a weird thing. Like, the settlers in the West Bank, Israel will kind of say like, oh, we don't even condone that. But then they'll give them a wink and a nod and help them become settlers in the West Bank. It's so weird that how it works. Right? Is that not strange? Like, they pretend like they don't even want settlers there. But then they'll provide all this under-the-table support for settlers there. And even the settlers will be like, oh, yeah, they say that, but we know they really want us here. We're doing God's work. Like, what the fuck? I don't know.
In weeks, I have been unable to do so. What we are doing in Gaza is a war of extermination, indiscriminate, unrestrained, brutal, and criminal killings of civilians. We are doing this not because of an accidental loss of control of a particular sector, not because of a disproportionate outburst of fighters in some unit, but as a result of a policy dictated by the government, knowingly, intentionally, viciously, maliciously, recklessly. Yes, we are committing war crimes. It's time to stop before we're all ostracized from the family of nations and summoned to the International Criminal Court for war crimes. And a good defense won't stand a chance.
He's even saying we need to stop this before we have international people saying we committed war crimes, because that's what we're doing.
Against us. Now, this does come amidst what we're seeing in the United States, which is, by and large, from what I can see, indifference to the ongoing war in Gaza. We're paying a lot more attention now to, if we're looking in that region, the nuclear talks with Iran tends to take center stage here in the U.S. I'm not seeing much at all. It's just falling off the plate on whatever side you want to take here. The pro-Palestinian crowd is not getting the traction that they once did. And honestly, even the pro-Israeli crowd talking about how Hamas needs to be eliminated and the hostages need to come home, it's getting drowned out by a lot of other things happening in the United States, which may be perceived by Netanyahu and some of his advisors as a free hand to do more than maybe they could have in the past. So it's interesting to see here some leadership inside of Israel pushing back, saying we got to stop, guys. This has gone too far. If we go much further down this route, we might not be able to come back. But nonetheless, I will link that full article as well as the Al Jazeera interview in the description below if you want to check those out. But that's all I got for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.
All right, so that's what's going on. That's why an aid station may be overran, right? You kind of imagine things get out of hand quick and an aid station is overran. And I wouldn't even put it past the IDF to cause an aid station to get overran. They do some fucked up shit.
Is a U.S. company, but it's a joint U.S.-Israeli plan. Now, the foundation, a lot of this is murky, so bear with me. Intentionally or unintentionally, there's a lot that's not known about this group right now, partially because they're so new. But the group says that they have secured over $100 million so far in commitments. It's not entirely clear where those funds are coming from. Are they running some sort of grassroots campaign to collect donors from around the world? Is it government funding? We don't know. Now, they have received support. The Trump administration, the Netanyahu government both support this initiative, but it's not clear if that support has made its way into material support beyond just saying we like this idea, or even some sort of financial support. That, again, isn't yet known. But the overall strategy here, and I want you to just keep in the back of your mind, additional Americans on the ground in an ongoing combat zone. This is not the same as putting soldiers somewhere. We tend to view that very, very differently here in the United States, but this is going to be the largest group of American personnel in Gaza since the war began. There are risks that come with that. Say the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation's aid distribution strategy involves establishing 4 guarded distribution hubs in southern Gaza near Israeli military positions. These centers are designed to serve over 1 million Palestinians initially. The foundation's approach includes biometric screening to prevent aid from reaching individuals affiliated with Hamas. And this is already a point of contention, and understandably so. A lot of the Palestinians are worried here that this is just going to be used as some long-term surveillance tool. Capture more biometric data from the civilians in Gaza, and however this war comes to a close, Israel had it here.
Absolutely.
Hubs in some wars, putting soldiers somewhere. We tend to view.
Listen very closely. They are collecting data 1,000%. That is the new intel part of war. That's the new ISR. Is all of your fucking data. If you have a cell phone, if they see your face on a camera, they're collecting everything.
View that very, very differently here in the United States, but this is going to be the largest group of American personnel in Gaza since the war began. There are risks that come with that. Say the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation's aid distribution strategy involves establishing 4 guarded distribution hubs in southern Gaza near Israeli military positions. These centers are designed to serve over 1 million Palestinians initially. The foundation's approach includes biometric screening to prevent aid from reaching individuals affiliated with Hamas.
Biometric screening. Who is doing their biometric screening? Who has Israel teamed up with this war to identify members of Hamas? Who are they using? What was the name of the company? You remember, chat?
centers are designed to serve over 1 million Palestinians initially. The foundation's approach includes biometric screening to prevent aid from reaching individuals affiliated with Hamas. And this is already a point of contention, and understandably so. A lot of the Palestinians are worried here that this is just going to be used as some long-term surveillance tool. Capture more biometric data from the civilians in Gaza, and however this war comes to a close, Israel has all that data at their fingertips. It also, just in practice, is going to be a challenge. This in order for this to be effective, it means that Israel must have, at this point,
Palantir
to know
if nobody's going to answer
who is Hamas, who's affiliated with Hamas, because if they don't,
Palantir. Peter Thiel's company, Palantir, is doing all the biometric stuff for Israel. And I guarantee you that's who's doing these scannings to make sure they're not members of Hamas.
To compare it against. And there's just, to be blunt, there's no way they have that top to bottom. So there's going to be a lot of guesswork involved here. And then you have to ask, at what point do you cut off aid? Right? If you have a Hamas fighter coming up asking for food, got it. Maybe don't give him anything. What about the brother of a known Hamas militant? Cousin? Second cousin? Grandfather? Like, they may or may not be involved. What about just material? What about support? Right? So they're not actually.
Have you guys seen the video of the 3 people trying to surrender? Hands up. And they're just gunned down by IDF. And IDF admits they killed them because they thought their surrender was a trap. I understand that. I was in Iraq when people were wearing fucking goddamn vests strapped with explosives, bicycles strapped with explosives, cars packed full of explosives. I understand that. There's a procedure to go through, right? It's not shoot them in the middle of the street and then say, well, it's better than it being an actual trap. It's insane, dude.
Actually fighting for Hamas, but we know Israel is able to identify that this one individual maybe at some point a few years ago allowed Hamas to use their garage to store weapons. Are they cut off from aid? Do you see how messy this gets quickly? Nonetheless, that seems to be the plan right now under the GHF, their garage to store weapons. Right? So they're not actually fighting for Hamas, but we know Israel is able to identify that this one individual maybe at some point a few years ago allowed Hamas to use their garage to store weapons. Are they cut off from aid? Do you see how messy this gets quickly? Nonetheless, that seems to be the plan right now under the GHF. Let's see, they say under this mechanism, security screened Palestinians will be expected to collect boxes containing food and basic hygiene items for their families from a small number of distribution sites. The sites, and this is important, will be secured by American contractors with Israeli troops patrolling the perimeters. Those American contractors, our understanding right now, is coming from an organization called Safe Reach Solutions, SRS, which is an American private security firm founded by Philip Riley, a former CIA officer. It's not clear at this point if those security contractors are American. The company is. That does not automatically mean that the people on the ground working for them are American. Now, in some of the pictures, I'm not sure if the pictures are accurate or not, showing some of these individuals. They generally try to keep a low profile. They look Western for what it's worth. They look like former U.S. military. Of course, I wouldn't take that to the bank, just an observation. Nonetheless, if even the leadership inside of those organizations are American citizens, it does raise the risk profile for us here in the United States pretty substantially now that they're going to be in and around these distribution sites working security side by side with Israel. Now, the foundation's original executive director, Jake Wood, a former Marine, I believe, just resigned a few days ago, which is a bit of a red flag when the executive director of an organization like this steps down right when they move into the implementation phase. He said that the group could not work in a way that would be able to fulfill the principles of humanity, neutrality, impartiality, and independence. And with that, I thought it was worth getting into some of the pushback from the outside.
They're literally shooting people waving white flags. Like, you can't do that. Right? We had TTP where we had them come up, we had them turn around, had them lift their shirt, had them spin around, had them make sure, and then you go into stages, you get a little bit closer to them, you get to where you just use your voice instead of a megaphone, you do the same thing, all the way up to patting them down. But you can't just say, it could have been a trap and shoot them. Right? When they're holding white flags. Holy fuck. How do you expect the rest of the world to support your side? I mean, I know you got Trump in your pocket, but like regular fucking people can't support that.
Get into some pushback from the Palestinians here inside of Gaza in a moment. But as of now, the United Nations and other humanitarian groups have refused to participate in this GHF-led distribution, arguing that the plan politicizes aid, lacks neutrality, and could lead to forced displacement by directing aid through militarized zones. And you can see that when looking at the map. If you're in Gaza right now and you want to be on the receiving end of aid, are you really going to be close or far away from some of these distribution points? And how long before you decide it just makes more sense to kind of be in that southwest corner where most of these aid points are set up, which in turn is kind of a, call it direct, call it indirect, displacement of the Palestinian people. Now, adding to some of these concerns as to how this program is going to be implemented and if it could be actually used as a tool of war. I want to turn now to Philip Turla. Apologies for the pronunciation there. He's the international affairs editor at France 24, talking about this very issue. Let's give that a listen.
Now, there are also claims and a lot of suspicion behind the scenes about the ultimate goal of the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. That's to say that it's not really set up to operate like a normal humanitarian organization. What it wants to do is to feed civilians who can get to the distribution centers, these 4 centers in central, basically southern Gaza, and then not hand out any food to any person who is suspected of being a member of Hamas or who is known to be a member of Hamas. That's to say, to starve Hamas out, to weaken them so that they will then have to surrender. So it's not being used as a humanitarian organization, but as an arm of war or a war weapon to try to weaken Hamas further, and therefore it's not being created with an objective decision-making body, but more or less under the auspices and under the desires of the Israeli government.
They can't. I mean, I wouldn't, right? If I was sitting there watching news and media, people with white flags just being shot. Hell, they shot their own hostages. They shot 3 Israeli hostages that were either released or escaped or something. They shot 3 Israeli hostages that were fleeing from Hamas back to Israel. They shot them. You can surrender. I wouldn't.
To the IDF, who put out some pretty long statements earlier today, along with videos and pictures that I'll share here of this operation.
During this war, the IDF has facilitated the entry of over 1.7 million tons of aid into Gaza. What has Hamas done? Hamas has eluded that and prevented it from reaching the people of Gaza directly. We're standing here in this logistical area that the IDF built and will secure and will be run by a third party that will give the people of Gaza the aid directly. Every day, thousands of Gazans will be able to come here, reach this third party, and get the aid directly. We hope this will end Hamas's abuse of the aid coming into Gaza, Hamas's abuse of the people of Gaza, and that the people of Gaza will be able to receive the aid directly.
In their statement earlier today, they said as part of the American initiative, aid distribution centers established in the Gaza Strip operated by international aid organizations and secured by an American civilian security company. So again, there's probably a couple different ways to interpret that. They want to show they were working together, perhaps, or also kind of offloading in case this goes poorly, saying that was the Americans, and those international aid organizations couldn't figure it out. Now, they say as part of the ongoing efforts to facilitate the entry of humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip, 4 distribution centers have been set up in accordance with the directive of the political echelon and in close coordination with the United States.
Today,
these centers are operated by international aid organizations and secured
I get to test
by
out
American
something pretty special.
Hush, stop playing.
And security company personnel. So as part of the gradual opening of the distribution centers, 2 of the centers located in Tel al-Sultan, the Murad corridor, and the Rafah area began operating today, Tuesday, and are distributing food packages to thousands of families in the Gaza Strip. They say the establishment of the distribution centers took place over the last few months. Again, I personally feel like that really went under the radar. There was not a lot of information about this. As somebody who's trying to stay on top of this war, this really slipped through the cracks and was not getting a lot of attention. They say the process coincided with an ongoing dialogue and cooperation with the IDF through the Southern Command and COGAT, as well as international aid organizations and humanitarian. The Gaza.
Oh, by the way, guys, consider supporting the show. Do that at coldbeer.fund. We're actually in a really weird situation right now where, the campground's not open back up. The federal government stopped our disaster unemployment. I'm still waiting on the VA to come back, so we're not doing great. So if you want to help pay the bills, we would greatly appreciate that at coldbeer.fund. There's all kinds of links there, different ways to support the show, if you can, if you want to.
Humanitarian Foundation and the American Civilian Security Company. And then they wrap up by saying the IDF will continue to facilitate humanitarian assistance in the Gaza Strip while making every possible effort to ensure that the aid does not reach the hands of the Hamas terrorist organization. And with that, I thought it would be worth taking a look here at some reactions coming out of Gaza from the Palestinian citizens on the ground. This is some reporting from Andrew Fox over on X, who said some messaging going around on different apps, calls out a couple different things that I want to highlight. Quote, 500 American security personnel will be stationed around each aid center. If that's true, that would mean right now 1,000 American security personnel up to 2,000 when all of the aid distribution centers are set up. Again, are they Americans? Are they just American hired guns? Either way. In addition to the presence of occupation forces 300 meters away in each center, with entry lanes using eye scans. Female soldiers will search women along with exit lanes, tuk-tuks, so like...
Iris scans are very dystopian sounding, okay? They're, OpenAI came out with a thing called the Orb. So the company is called Worlds, and their device is called Orb. And it is a device that scans your iris. And they will give you $40 in crypto for letting them scan your eye. Which makes me think that's a lot of money for just like, what are you doing with it? Then it turns out that they have went around the world doing really, really shady things to get eye scans. Hold on. Like, there was one of the things was like they lured people in to make them think they were taking a taken a class about crypto, then just scanned their fucking eyes in like a third world country. Like, there's so many weird things going on with this. Why are they paying you $40 to scan your eyes? We'll finish this video first, but world is very weird.
Motorcycles with added wheels in the back, like small trucks you can pile things on. Tuk-tuks will also be permitted within 300 meters. There will be scrutiny of the cases of martyrs' wives, so killed Hamas members, their wives, and no one other than the head of the household will be permitted to receive aid, even if he is ill or elderly. I feel like that's going to be really hard to prove.
No one but the head of household will be allowed to receive aid.
Tracking casualties in Gaza has been an absolute nightmare from the get-go. The idea that, the head of household is no longer like, what if the oldest male is 4? How do you do this, right? Like, also, how many households still remain? And I know they're talking about family, not necessarily physical structure, but that would be incredibly complicated in the best of circumstances. It is not the best of circumstances right now in Gaza. They say significant difficulties are expected with the long lines of beneficiaries, given the lack of clarity on the details of the weekly aid fund, including its weight, size, and the ability to carry it to the tuk-tuks. Again, those small motorcycle-like trucks. And they give out 3 warnings here for anybody that wants to go receive this aid. 1, do not go to collect aid if your husband was among those who entered Israel on October 7th, actively participated in the Great March of Return activities, or was promoted during or before the war and has a military record in the organizations. So there's the biometric easy one, right? Find out pretty quickly. That is all data that Israel would have at this point. So just telling those folks, too bad. Don't do it. 2, do not go to collect if you've been imprisoned by Israel for security reasons, even for throwing stones 40 years ago. I think that's probably right. Again, if Israel's trying to dial in their biometric data, they probably got to toss a pretty wide net, and they're going to be going back as far as they can. Anybody's data that's popping up in the system for any sort of criminal offense is probably going to flag, is going to pop hot. That might risk the person being detained short-term or indefinitely. 3, every person has the right to decide for themselves whether or not to go. Those who go will not be collaborators, and those who refuse will not be honorable. The classification is unacceptable, and the association is suspicious. We will not remain silent regarding those who abuse and distribute certificates of honor and patriotism. This is following some, I don't know if it came directly from Hamas or just some loud voices. I didn't see it on the official Hamas statements, but some pushback to this program saying, don't give in and accept aid from this American-Israeli venture that's giving in to the enemy. And that was met with some harsh criticism, understandably so, right out the gate. Like, which one is it? If there truly are, and I believe there are people that genuinely need food and medical support inside the Gaza Strip, then who on earth is going to say, yeah, but that aid isn't good enough, that food isn't good enough, that medical support isn't good enough? So they're just kind of hammering on that point, like, go, receive the aid, stay alive, give it to your children, whatever it might be. But nonetheless, a lot of this is still pretty murky, and we'll see how today plays out. Hopefully, there are no security incidents. We're going to see large gatherings of civilians around each one of these aid locations, likely lines for, I don't know, kilometers, miles, maybe even. Hopefully there's no mortars lobbed by Hamas, no small arms fire off in the distance that could put at risk what is likely to be long lines of civilians, again, with American security personnel operating alongside the IDF. But either way, this is going to be something worth keeping an eye on as it continues to play out in the Gaza Strip. But that's all I've got for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.
It's about to be a mess. And I mean, it already is a mess, but it's about to get worse. Yeah, let's look at this world orb. It seems like it's pretty bad. Yeah, Adam Conover did an ad for him because he's a fucking retard. His whole thing has been like question everything, never fall for their trick. He did an ad for them and thought he could be snarky enough to where people would know, like, it's a snark ad, don't actually do it. So then he had to come out and apologize. I just watched a video. Hold on. Let's do this. Let's go to my history. And then we'll go to Orb, maybe. Here, check this out.
Hey, remember Adam Ruins Everything? It was that show starring Adam Conover. Personally, I never, but which, for you, that Christopher Columbus, maybe I should reconsider.
They just want me to ask questions about it. Skeptical Francisco, so they could show me their
social media.
Here's his video.
Adam Conover is up to today.
So this is a bit of a different video for me. This tech company World paid me to come to their keynote in San Francisco so they could show me their new product. Apparently this product is kind of mysterious. It's been confusing the public, so they do not want me to endorse it. They just want me to ask questions about it, skeptical questions, and let you make up your own mind about it and hopefully help you understand what the hell it does. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to check out World's new product, the Orb.
Holy shit, he's going to debunk crypto scams directly to the scammers' faces while he takes their money? This is incredible. Let's see him hammer them with those skeptical questions of his.
Oh, you guys don't save any of the credential, any of the cryptographic hash of my eye. It's just on my phone. I noticed that when I opened the app.
Oh, they don't save it?
And it said that
I bet they don't.
Myself on the Orb, it would give me like $41 in a crypto token. What is the intent of that? But aren't you worried that when people open the app and it says verify yourself on the Orb and we'll give you $41, that people's reaction will be, why do you want me to verify myself so bad? Like, why are you giving me money to do this? And a lot of people see crypto and they're just just like, that's a scam. And when you're trying to onboard a lot of people, it seems like that could be a barrier. Ian, thank you so much for explaining to me. I really appreciate it, man. Of course. Okay, I'm back in LA. My orb venture is over.
Now, the company claims the reason they're doing this is because they can tell between a dead iris and a live iris. So basically, the only way that you could do this is to prove that you're actually a human, right? This is the ultimate human test, okay? You couldn't even, like, cut somebody's eyeball out and use it. It proves that it's you and that you're human. You're not AI. You're not a bot. You're not that. That's why they're doing this. But it also seems very fucking weird when we know that this is a gigantic metric in, like, AI detection and identification of people.
For final thoughts, I've been playing around with the World app. There is so much you can do with this app if you are into crypto. I am not into crypto. If you are, you might want to check it out. They also say that in the future, you will be able to log into Tinder and other services like that using World.
By the way, he deleted this and apologized for it.
Are you going to get yourself orbed or not? It's entirely up to you.
Wow, such skepticism. Very hard-hitting journalism there. Okay, so he's genuinely taking money to promote something called the orb. And he wants to know if I'm going to get myself orbed. No, Adam, I'm not going to get myself orbed, because as fucking obviously dystopian as the orb from World sounds just from your video, the reality is it's actually way, way worse. But yes, even what you can learn from that video is pretty obviously horrible. It's a machine that scans your eyeball and other biometric data in exchange for $41.
Behind glamour shots, I'll be back there. Bring $40 exactly. I don't do change.
In cryptocurrency, so that it can then use your biometric data to verify your identity to various corporations. And yes, they have called this machine the Orb and their company World. Well, they're calling their company that now, but a few years ago, World was better known as WorldCoin. Oh, and before that, WorldCoin was actually the name of the product, not the company. Who helped create it was Sam Altman. Yeah, guy. And he envisioned it as a collectively owned global currency that would be given to everyone on Earth, provided that they submit an iris scan. According to the
everybody can have it on Earth as long as you let us scan your eyeball.
Founders, the scan was really important because that's the only way they would be able to know for sure that every single person gets their fair share of WorldCoin and no more. So how did they train the orbs to distinguish humans based on their irises? By exploiting people, of course. In 2022...
Listen what they did. How did they train their AI on irises? Listen to this.
More. So how did they train the orbs to distinguish humans based on their irises? By exploiting people, of course. In 2022, MIT Technology Review conducted an in-depth investigation that found that WorldCoin had spent the previous years canvassing developing countries in Africa and Southeast Asia, offering the world's poorest people cryptocurrency in exchange for their eyeballs. A cryptocurrency that hadn't even launched yet, so nobody really knew how much it was going to be worth. And in some places, like Sudan, people didn't even have email addresses, so they had no idea what crypto even is. So WorldCoin operators bribed them with AirPods. And in
not everybody got AirPods. An AirPod contest.
Indonesia, they applied to teach a class on cryptocurrency to high school students and then only taught them how to scan their irises.
In Indonesia, they applied to teach a class about crypto to high school students. And then the class was how to scan your eye and log into Orb.
Log into the WorldCoin app. Various forms and privacy agreements that WorldCoin had these people sign were often written in a language that they could not read.
The privacy agreements were written in English.
But WorldCoin did promise they would eventually delete this biometric data that they collected, which also included 3D body scans and other data, once they finished training their orbs. But security experts were skeptical that the company would keep their privacy promises and even that they could keep them. It turns out those experts were right to be skeptical because a year after the MIT Technology Review investigation,
hackers stole passwords of WorldCoin Orb operators.
Came out, WorldCoin got hacked. Several Orb operators had all of their credentials stolen and posted on the dark web, giving anyone access to the full WorldCoin dashboard because it didn't even require two-factor authentication. MIT Technology Review also noted that WorldCoin was doing scans around Europe, which was going to lead to a lot of issues due to the EU's strong privacy laws. Sure enough, as of last year, at least 14 countries on 3 continents were investigating WorldCoin for ethical violations like signing up children, as they did not only in that Indonesian high school, but also in Portugal, whose government joined every other EU country besides Germany in banning the company. So here we are a year later. WorldCoin is now simply World, and they've convinced professional skeptic you can trust Adam Conover to tell his legion of fans that they should get orbed. You know,
it's very dystopian, right?
they want to, because there's a lot of cool stuff on the app if you're into crypto, which Adam isn't. Also, the video he posted cuts away right before he actually puts his eyeball up to the orb, causing one to wonder if he's just not really into giving his biometric data to a deeply unethical corporation as well. Maybe he's just really into money. And I don't mean $41 of WorldCoin.
Now, Adam Conover deleted a video, made an apology video, and said that he didn't even accept the money. Right? He said, "Oh, thank you for the donation. I just saw an email that I got a donation. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I got multiple donations. Thank you for both the donations. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's very dystopian to scan your eye, something that's more unique than your fingerprints, right? It's only you. You're the only person that has that exact scan of that eye. And they know it's only you because you also give them your name and your information, your banking information, and all that shit, right? That's pretty wild. One would think you'd be like, I don't know. But here's Adam Conover apologizing.
So let's talk about one of the dumbest things.
He's Adam Ruins Everything. He's not a great debater. He has probably one of the worst debate appearances I've ever seen in the world on Joe Rogan's podcast.
I have ever done. Last week, I posted a sponsored video on Instagram and TikTok for a tech company called World and its product, the Orb. Now, if you're not familiar, this is just a comically creepy product. The company was co-founded.
Comically creepy. Now, you saw his video. It didn't seem like he was telling people not to do it, even through snarkiness, right? He's like, oh, the app's awesome. You do all kinds of stuff with crypto. If you're into it, I'm not. Maybe you are. But his excuse for doing this is going to be like, I thought that I was being like sarcastic enough that people knew this was stupid. I could scam them out of their money.
Founded by OpenAI's Sam Altman, and its product, the Orb, purports to scan your iris to prove that you're a human. And in return for giving up that precious biometric data, it gives you about $40 in crypto. This thing has already been banned in several countries, and even the rest of the crypto industry has called it out for being predatory. And, you know, I've devoted my entire career as a comedian to debunking scams, and I am on record as being extremely skeptical, even negative, about AI and crypto. So you might be wondering, why the fuck would Adam Conover make a sponsored video for this company? And yeah, I have exactly the same question for myself. Looking at this decision with hindsight, I am fucking embarrassed. I'm humiliated, to be quite honest. It feels like I was asleep at the wheel of my own life in some way. I mean, I've been making comedy online in the public eye for a few decades at this point, and I thought I knew what I was doing, but it turns out I'm just capable of fucking up in the most fundamental way. And that makes you feel differently about yourself. Like, if I could do this, what else am I capable of? Driving directly into oncoming traffic? Drinking cyanide as an oopsie? It's fucking insane. So the internet spent an entire week dunking on me, and I deserved every single piece of it. Because
I want to read some of those. Adam Conover got famous for promoting critical thinking in his show Adam Ruins Everything. Now he's getting paid to promote an orb that scans your eyeball in exchange for cryptocurrency, which was trained on poor villagers in Africa and Southeast Asia. Yes, really. Damn. Adam Conover shilling crypto is incredibly funny to me because I'm picturing his skeptical alter ego popping up behind a couch and lecturing him about how it's a scam. I want one of those Adam Conover crypto orbs, mainly because I want to crack it open like an egg and see what off-the-shelf parts they used for it that cost like $5 on AliExpress.
Because even though I never endorsed the product, I never said I love it and you should use it, the simple act of making a video for this company directly violated not only my public brand and credibility, but also my actual personal values, all for, honestly, not that much money. And so I've genuinely been trying to figure out why I did it. You know, sometimes even our own actions can be a mystery to ourselves. I've literally been talking with my therapist about it. Why did I do this thing that was so out of character for me? So look, the most obvious explanation would be the money, right? And sure, easy money is nice to get, especially in an industry where you don't know where your next paycheck is coming from. But I've turned down more money than this before for products that I have less of a problem with. And when I got the offer for this thing, I knew deep down that I should reject it. So why didn't I? I think, ultimately, I did it because I thought I was better than them. I felt contempt for what World was asking me to do. I was like, hold on, this company wants to pay me, a guy who's on record as a crypto and AI hater and clearly thinks the product is garbage, to make a video about it, and they don't even want me to endorse it? My audience is going to see right through that. I thought it was a dumb money gig and that I could outsmart them.
That's not what he did, though. He played along.
They want to let me make a BS video that everyone knows isn't genuine, grab the bag and get out clean. Well, that's their funeral. My funeral. It turned out to be my funeral. You know, here's a tip. When you think something's a dumb money gig, you should double check who the dumb one is in the transaction. I ignored my heart.
It would have been fine if he'd have said, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. Why would you give them this data for $40? Who knows how this data is going to be used in the future? You know what I mean? Like, that would have been one thing.
And the only person I outsmarted was myself. Because, first of all, yeah, you guys are smart, and you did hate the product. But I guess I forgot that you were also going to hate the dude talking about the product, me. Crypto bullshit is a transitive property. By playing along with it, I got it on me, and I started to stink like it. But more importantly, no matter how clever I thought I was being about it, I was still letting a company I don't believe in buy my credibility.
Anyways, that's him excusing. We got this video from a More Perfect Union. I haven't watched it yet, but I saw it pop up.
Private prisons, it's money-based. They don't really care about human rights. They don't really care about who's in there. They don't even care about their workers.
Whenever he left,
it says, I was detained in a private prison. It's a modern concentration camp.
It's like they took a piece away from me. And like just not hearing from him and not knowing if he was alive.
This is a modern-day concentration camp. This is what this is. Because there's people dying in there. There's people being starved.
The private prison industry is set for a historic boom with President Donald Trump launching his mass deportation.
Shares of Geo Group and CoreCivic rose more than 50% since the election.
I've worked at CoreCivic for 32 years, and this is truly one of the most exciting periods in my career with the company.
Meet CoreCivic and Geo Group, the two publicly traded companies that have come to dominate the private prison industry.
Private prison companies, mainly Geo Group and CoreCivic, are...
Oh, that's fucked up. That's a fucked up donation. Thank you, I think. That's kind of fucked up, right?
Are champing at the bit at their prospects for big profits in 2025.
It's no secret that corporate America values lining their shareholders' pockets over any other values. But what happens when the model of profit seeking over all else gets wrapped up in an industry?
Why don't we do state-run prisons anymore? Why are we doing private prisons? I mean, obviously the money, right? But I think this is something that we just have to eat the cost of, and our taxes have to pay for, to make sure that there's enough oversight, to make sure that there's not human rights violations, to make sure there's somebody to sue and go after and whatever when shit does go wrong.
Where the bottom line is dependent on millions of human bodies.
It's akin to modern day slavery.
And the only people profiting from this are these private companies and the government.
We talked to former detainees, correctional officers, community advocates, and attorneys who are all speaking out about CoreCivic and Geo Group. Our journey took us from Kansas to Nashville to remote detention facilities in rural Louisiana to explore how these companies are taking advantage of this moment to line their shareholders' pockets. In the towns we went to, private prisons had come to define the local economy, almost like a factory town in the past era.
Contrary to factory towns, those factories were producing things, right? Producing cars, etc. Here, they're not producing anything. They're causing pain and they're causing destruction to families across the country.
I don't think with my personal issues and my PTSD and shit, if I did something that I was facing to go to prison, and I thought I was actually going to go to prison, I think I would just end it. Like I don't think I could do it. Like, I already freak out over every fucking thing. I can't fucking hold a job. I can barely hold a goddamn conversation. I don't think I could do prison.
What was attractive to you about the job opportunity?
Well, I'm just gonna be very blunt about it. I needed a job. Up to that point, I had never even heard of for-profit prisons. I'm almost a little bit embarrassed to talk about that or to say that, but I didn't know. I just thought prisons were prisons. So I just needed a job, needed to work.
Like, I'm already super paranoid. If I was in an environment where I was thinking like somebody's going to jump me or stab me or I'm going to do this and people are fucking watching me all that, I don't think I could handle it. It would either be on the outside or on the inside one. I don't think I'd make it.
Rogers worked as a correctional officer at a CoreCivic private detention facility.
My job was to house them in a safe manner. It's a possibility. The way CoreCivic makes money, it's impossible to house inmates safely.
He told me that the company was always looking for cost-cutting measures, with staff accounting for 70% of its overhead.
If we're going to raise profits at that facility, if we cut staff, or I say cut staff, when they quit, we just don't replace them at the rate we should.
Right. So if that's 70% of your overhead, that's how you get better profits, right? If you run a business and 70% of your business is fucking the printer paper, you're going to be like, hey, let's start doing, digital, right? We don't need to print everything off.
We're making more money. We're generating more money. As I worked there longer and longer, it seemed to get worse. Looking back on it, I was very, very outspoken about safety, about the dangers of being short-staffed. I was stabbed. I had my head split open. I got bitten, a lot of times in violence. They lash out, whether it be at each other or staff.
Rogers lives in Leavenworth, Kansas, where CoreCivic is trying to reopen the facility that has been sitting empty for 4 years. It shut down in 2021 after a Biden administration executive order prevented federal agencies from renewing contracts with private criminal detention facilities. The place was plagued by allegations of violent and inhumane conditions, prompting one federal judge to label the prison an absolute hellhole. The city of Leavenworth is now suing CoreCivic, arguing it cannot reopen the prison without a permit from the city. Bill Rogers has been vocal about the issue.
CoreCivic did it because it was a profit. The more individuals I could jam into that cell, the more money I would make.
CoreCivic says reopening the prison will bring hundreds of jobs back to Leavenworth.
They're coming into Leavenworth and telling them how great it's going to be, you know? Everybody wants to talk about a dollar. I don't hear CoreCivic want to talk about the human lives. I don't want to hear them talk about the souls that they're going to touch.
And when you hear these guys, when you understand that their business is keeping people in cages, and then you hear them at like their like investment dinners or like their yearly investment calls and shit, and you hear the way they fucking speak, it's disgusting.
Be a detainee or a person that works there or a family member of a detainee or a family member, because you know what? My family was affected by what I went through. You don't think my wife dealt with it for 4 years when I come home and didn't talk to her certain nights? You don't think that put a strain on our marriage? You know, I reflect back on those 4.5 years and I start to see the moments when I should have realized more so that it was about profit.
And the profit at CoreCivic is going elsewhere.
CoreCivic CEO Damon Hinninger is estimated to be worth over $20 million. In 2023, he got paid over 96 times the average CoreCivic employee. He works out of this office building right behind us in Brentwood, Tennessee.
That's not far. What do you think? How do you think it would go over if they limit a CEO's pay to some type of multiple of the lowest paid person on a job? How do you think that would go over company-wide? You think that would cause companies to flee or shut down, or that they would refuse to hire people? You think it'd be good? You think they'd bring in people at higher wages? Like if you said that a CEO of a company can't make more than 25 times what the lowest paid employee makes, how do you think that would affect nationwide businesses? You think it's a good idea? I think it's a good idea, but how do you think it would affect the businesses? So if you have somebody making $10 an hour, you could make $250 an hour, right? Whatever your lowest paid employee is. But if you bring them up to $20 an hour, now suddenly you can make $500 an hour, or what? It doesn't matter what the multiple is, just a multiple.
The same profit motive affecting workers plays out even more starkly in the lives of detainees.
The conditions have always been terrible at the facilities, particularly when it comes to medical care. You essentially have to be in a severe, either chronic or severe pain or something that requires almost emergency care in order to really get treatment. And because these facilities are profit-oriented, they're for-profit private prisons, their goal is to minimize cost.
This treatment, the lack of language access, the lack of library access, the lack of attorney-client rooms, the lack of food, the lack of medical care, that is consistent and it's emblematic of this system.
In these places, human rights don't exist. You don't even exist as a human.
Edwin Garcia was held in the Gina, Louisiana Geo Group facility for 9 months and recently returned home to his family after almost 5 years apart. Edwin came to the U.S. with his parents.
It's worse
ago when he was.
It's worse now with the migrant crisis, right? It's like a fucking gold rush.
He got DACA status when he was 15, but that changed when he was arrested for domestic assault, charges that were ultimately dropped.
September 8th of 2018. I was arrested for falsely accused of something I didn't do.
Still, a misdemeanor charge remained on his record.
I was leaving the court. I was shackled up, and when they walked me out of the door.
I just think we get to a spot where it's ridiculous, right? Like CEOs are making, a couple $100 million a year, and they're like, let's see if we can save 10% on this and 40% on that and 20% on this so I can get a bonus. Like, what the fuck are you doing with all that money?
ICE was there to pick me up.
That's when he was sent to the Geo Group prison. What was it like being inside the Louisiana facility?
I just remember getting off the bus and then they crowded all 90 of us in a little pod. It's super cool.
Pensions. Doing away with pensions was fucked. You should have a pension and a 401k if you want to contribute to it, and Social Security. That's the three-legged stool, right? Your pension, your investment and savings, which you can include 401k, IRA, and Social Security. Like pensions, them doing away with pensions really fucked the worker. That's a huge deal.
Cold. People are sleeping on the floor, sleeping where people use the bathroom because it's so crowded.
Edwin's story took many harrowing and tragic turns that led him to Mexico and back, ultimately ending up in a core civic detention facility in Torrance, New Mexico, where he experienced similar poor conditions.
I remember walking in and the smell of like wet carpet, kind of like the humid smell. You got mold, it's hot because it's not even AC.
The bigger a company gets, too, oftentimes the less impact a CEO actually has, right? He sets the vision, he says where we're going, he makes the cuts, but who's actually producing the value in that company?
He's turned on in there. The food source wasn't fresh at all. It took them 4 days to give me hygiene stuff so I could take a shower. 5 men, probably the age of my father's age, between 45.
Well, there's sort of a pay cap. It depends on what you pay your lowest paid employee.
I was 55 years old that wanted to commit suicide because they could not take it to being in these places and then being locked up and nobody would talk to them. Now that I speak very good English, they're like, you're not a regular immigrant. You're an advanced immigrant. That's what I was.
I know what they would do. They would hire all of their high-paid employees onto the company, and then all the other positions they would fill with temp services and say, oh, well, that's, they're temporary. If after their 90 days, they can come on full-time if we decide to keep them. But they would just keep recycling temporary workers, I bet.
It's called advanced immigrant.
Edwin is now seeking asylum and is back home in Tennessee.
She said she felt devastated, very, very sad. She felt like they would never see me again for everything that I went through. Being in Mexico. She said it was like the most terrible days of her life that she'd ever gone through as a mother.
What was it like when you saw your brother come through the door, like that reunion?
Oh my gosh, I feel like a little girl. Like the last time I seen, I ran into his arms, and I said, please don't ever leave me again.
We wondered, how was all this even possible?
It's a question that I still ask myself to this day, and I guess power and money is what controls this country now.
The Trump administration wants you to think that their crackdown on illegal immigration is all about arresting people who have committed horrible crimes and getting them out of the country. But the fact is, many of the people being detained right now are people like Edwin. They haven't committed a crime, but were picked up anyway because Trump's executive orders and other policy statements have revoked many people's immigration status and given...
As a CEO, you can take almost all of your pay. Let's say you're making, $5 million a year. You can take all that pay as shares in the company. Then you take those shares to a bank and say, hey, I have $5 million worth of shares in this company. I want a $3 million loan. Here's the collateral. Take that as a loan, live off that, and never pay taxes on any of that $5 million or $3 million. None. Your taxable income would be zero.
ICE very broad authority. The next stop in our investigation was Louisiana. First, we met with ACLU attorney Nora Ahmed. Ahmed and her team published a report in 2024 documenting human rights abuses and conditions in the state's prisons.
So 8 out of 9 of our facilities are for-profit prisons. We have 65,000 people that move through our immigration jails annually. We have about 7,000 people who are jailed here on a daily basis.
We're in rural Louisiana now, getting close to Basile Prison.
Sarasota, fuck out of here.
We are getting permission to go inside to meet with them. This is an all-women's detention facility?
Yes, it is unique in that sense that, there are no men at the facility. I mean, of course, there are transgender individuals at the facility, but by and large, it is intended to house women only.
And this is a facility that you wrote about in your report for the ACLU. Does it fit the pattern of human rights abuses?
It absolutely fits the pattern of human rights abuses and what many would characterize as cruel and unusual punishment.
Spent over 2 hours in Basile Detention Center. They talked with 3 detainees who spoke with them about their experiences inside the facility.
We heard
they were gripped at a nearby restaurant after leaving the facility to debrief.
These people that they're starving. They're only given a spoonful of beans and rice every day. Poor to limited access to medical care. They describe an environment with not enough staff, not enough toilet paper, no female hygiene products, limited access to outdoor time, to recreation time. One detainee told us that she works for $1 a day cleaning the facility.
Yeah, I agree. There was a time where you knew you had to take care of your employees. And now it's been reduced to just throw somebody in the spot, dude. At most places. I'm not saying every place. Like most places are like that.
And sometimes they don't even pay her. This is pretty wild stuff.
I think it's wild for people who don't go to immigration jails. I think this has been happening under everyone's noses in rural locations for years.
There's one down in Florida where like people are fucking dying and shit, and there's protests and trying to get it shut down like every day.
And if now is the time for the American people to confront who this country is and who we are, then it's good that we're going to start to.
What's the notorious one down in Florida, guys? You guys remember the name of it? I know we were just talking about it the other day.
But none of this is new.
With all of this pain and suffering, it's hard to imagine that anyone other than these corporations are benefiting from private prisons. But some communities have shaped their local economies around private prisons. We went to meet Walter Dora, the president of the LaSalle Economic Development District, a government entity created by the state legislature in the late 80s. Walter had to sign off on Geo Group coming to the community in the first place.
In the mid-'80s, the price of oil dropped significantly. We had economic difficulties in LaSalle Parish. As a result of that, a lot of jobs were lost in population. People had to move away to find other work because
I'll look it up.
Oil and timber.
What type of economic benefits does the parish see?
Geo makes available up to 300 jobs for persons that work there. The jobs are good paying jobs, as I appreciate it, almost $1 million in property taxes. And of course, you also have to consider the ripple effect. All of that turns over and is an economic benefit to the community.
Do you think that it's a responsibility here to make sure that there are not any human rights
Chrome service
or people are being harmed in any way inside the facility?
Haven't really thought about it. If someone were being
Chrome services,
I would not be in favor of that.
Have you been inside recently at the Gina facility? Have you been inside Geo Group's facility?
6 or 8 months ago was the last time I was in there. I have no reason to be going there.
Less than 5 minutes from Walter's office is Geo Group's LaSalle detention facility. It's currently housing more than 1,100 detainees. Some of the people who've been held.
Chrome spelled with a K, K-R-O-M-E.
A Columbia University student and Palestinian activist, and Badar Khansouri, a Georgetown postdoctoral fellow who was recently released. Additionally, Rumeza Ostrak, a Tufts University doctoral student, and Ali Reza Daroudi, a University of Alabama doctoral student, have also been held in Louisiana. Across the state, about 7,000 people are being detained under private prison deals. It's second only to Texas for detaining the most immigrant detainees in the entire country.
When we think about the operation of these jails, what folks in that community will say is, yeah, but there's good jobs, there's pension jobs. And it's not always clear that they understand that there are also alternatives, right? That if we invested in other types of industries and services, that people might be able to, one, make a better living in a more safe environment.
The question is more, what comes next? If these places get shut down, if we stop operating in this way, what is the economic engine in these areas, right? What gets invested? Where does that investment come from? And what does it look like?
As our journey through the private prison industry came to a close, there was only one location we left out, Washington, D.C. Geo Group and CoreCivic collectively donated at least $1.5 million to Donald Trump's re-election campaign and inaugural committee, with lots of individual donations by both companies' top brass. In 2025, the federal government has $2.9 billion in contracts with Geo Group and its subsidiaries. That's double the amount in 2024.
Double the amount just in this year. I wonder what they're housing.
CoreCivic has $3.6 billion in obligations, astronomically higher than any previous year. And President General Pam Bondi lobbied for Geo Group. With so many conflicts of interest and so much money involved, standing up to these corporations is incredibly daunting. Lawyers for CoreCivic sent Bill Rogers this letter threatening legal action to try and stop him from speaking out. And the Leavenworth facility might be able to reopen in the end. Even elected officials seem powerless, like the mayor of Newark, New Jersey, who was arrested protesting the opening of a Geo Group facility.
They made a decision to arrest me. They made a decision to violate me. They made a decision to humiliate me.
But despite the odds, people are still fighting back. A bill is making its way through the state legislature in New Jersey that would make it easier for state and local law enforcement to resist cooperating with federal immigration authorities. And Edwin, even after all that he's been through, still finds space for optimism. Being home with your family now, them seeing you for the first time in all these years, what's that been like?
We're working through it, but there was a lot of hate at the beginning, for sure. There was a lot lot of hate in my family towards this country, towards the government, towards ICE, towards certain people. I kind of always told them it's not good to have hate in your heart. You know, we talk about forgiveness all the time. Being religious and following God's footsteps, I think sometimes, you know, hard things come to see how strong your faith is.
These institutions belong to us. They are our jails. They are our prisons. They are our detention centers. And what happens in them is done in our name.
We're going to keep tracking CoreCivic, GeoGroup, and other private companies that are profiting off of the current moment. If you have any stories to share, especially if you've worked at one of these corporations,
Hell, that's why they donated so much to Trump's campaign.
Has been directly affected by them, please reach out at stories@perfectunion.us.
Damn. All right, guys. Yeah, I guess that's it for me tonight. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you for supporting us. I'll be back tomorrow. Sorry, I'm kind of, didn't really have anything planned. I was topping all that out for the VA. I'm trying to fucking push them as hard as I can to make a decision. Even if they fucking tell me no or keep me at the same rate, I need something so I can appeal it or try it or whatever. But I was here while waiting over the weekend for a bond hearing, arrested on Friday night. It is out of control. Damn. Yeah, I would say so. They shaved your head. You were just like, you could have saw the judge if it wouldn't have been the weekend the next morning. That's crazy. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for being here. Support the show if you want to at coldbeer.fund. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you for those who supported the show already. And I'll be back tomorrow, I guess. It's starting to do some work at the campgrounds. They shouldn't really interfere with the show. But hopefully we can get to a point where I can be back on payroll. I'm just kind of helping out now, but something, I don't know. That job was kind of specially made for me. I don't know that I can hold a regular job right now. That one was in light of my disability. You know what I mean? And she knows it and works around it, kind of deal. It's hard to go get a regular job when you have all these fucked up, when you're crazy, I guess. But anyways, thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the support. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good night.
But I can tell you this about if this douchebag happens to see this particular show, you don't have the forking balls to call out the people on this planet by name and tell them exactly who they are and tell them the rest of the world who they are. You don't have the forking balls. You don't have the balls.
I have no doubt I'm going to end up with my disability where I want it. It's just the process of getting there. And yeah, just getting there without fucking losing everything on the way.
And they say that I'm a lunatic. Well, listen, bitch, I came equipped with a quick wit and a sixth sense for the stupid shit. Where my true believers? Y'all need Jesus. Praise the Lord, head to the extreme. All these false fucking prophets who profit off of gossip. Worshipping drums, cocking, begging for a throat deposit. Swinging fucking meat hammers like fool in a thong. He's strapped to the shaft, eating his chest like he's King Kong. Starving for attention, I'ma make your gut burst. I'll be your huckleberry, I can quench that thirst. Baby eating lizard people, alien sex. What's next? Trump in a dress, fucking Flynn on his desk. A retard in a vest, climbing up 5G towers. Cause you told him if he did, he'd get fucking superpowers. Here we go, I think I started some shit. Piss them off, it's about to get lit. Get the place in the bets, you know that stage is set. You better buckle up, cause you ain't seen nothing yet. Here we go, I think I started some shit. Piss them off, it's about to get lit. Get the place in the bets, you know that stage is set. You better buckle up, cause you ain't seen nothing yet. I used to find clues too when I was high on shrooms. I found myself a tunnel that led to Jason Q's bedroom. Open his closet, I found some of his meat rockets. I strapped it to my shoes and then I flew through the roof. I found myself in orbit strapped to an F-16. High on amphetamine, with Trump in between. Put on a light coat of baby oil and saluted the troops. He tapped me on the shoulder and said, this is gonna be... Whoa.
That's kind of funny. Still fucked up, but kind of funny.
What? I'll get my files. Wait, what are you doing? It's a... Stop. Hold on. Fucking stop. Dude, come on. Seriously. This is my mom's an alcoholic. Oh, give me a... Oh, my God. Damn it. Here we go. I think I started some shit. Piss them off. It's about to get lit. Get the place in the bets. You know that stage is set. You better better buckle up, cause you ain't seen none yet.